Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Body and Soul Expo podcast, your go-to source for holistic health and wellness. I'm your host, Bruce Starr. Mark your calendars and join us on Sunday, October 26th, 2025, at the beautiful Palm Beach Gardens Marriott, because it's going to be an absolutely incredible event, a truly transformational day you won't want to miss. We're proud to have sold out over 60 incredible vendor spaces in just 6 short weeks. Most vendors are powerful, innovative speakers sharing profound insights into a world of new and tried and true healing modalities and products. You'll just have to be there to discover it all for yourself. The Expo is a culmination of my wife Lauren's nearly 3 decades in the health and wellness arena and owning spas, and my 4 decades in the entertainment industry, from being a Hollywood talent agent and manager to television, radio, and podcasting. So for the latest updates, information, and exciting news and special announcements, please look for and follow our Body and Soul Expo Facebook site. And for the deeper dive into what our offer at the Expo, definitely visit our Body and Soul Expo.org website and take the time to investigate all you will see there. Today we'll have another inspiring episode of the Body and Soul podcast, where we showcase the incredible talents, experiences, and knowledge of the wonderful vendors who will be appearing at the Expo. Today's guest is Joe Petroski. Good old friend Joe was sent home to die by 9 doctors in 1999, but he refused to give up. After a complete recovery through energy healing, Joe dedicated his life to helping others experience transformations physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Now a master energy healer, intuitive coach, and founder of Profoundly Living, Joe works high-achieving individuals to release deep pain, illness, and the subconscious blocks that keep them stuck. His initiative, precision, and energetic mastery create rapid, lasting results, often in a single session. Joe doesn't just heal symptoms, he helps people live and feel the miracle of who they truly are. Joe, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. I look forward to this.
So, Joe, tell me about you. Tell me about Joe. How did Joe become the Joe Petroski that he is today?
Okay. Well, I grew up with quite a lot of abuse, both at home and at school, and it was very severe. And I learned very, very quickly to not be heard or seen. People say it's better to not be, or to be seen and not heard. And I was like, well, if they can't see you, they can't beat you. And I actually became a master at hiding. I became a very introvert, very, very shy, didn't really speak much. And I went through life with that. And I started to do a lot of personal work, personal development, did a lot of Al-Anon, adult children of dysfunctional families, lots of workshops like that. And I started to get better, supposedly. And I ended up getting into this relationship, and I didn't really take the cues when I was in this relationship. But when I was in this relationship, I started to develop really significant headaches to perfumes and colognes that I actually liked. And then it became dishwasher detergent, potpourri, car exhaust, laundry detergent, you name it. I started to get super, super bad migraines from it. So much so that my wife at the time forced me to go to the doctor. And when I went to the doctor the very first time, she says, "What are you here for?" I said, "Well, I think I might be allergic to perfumes." And so she pushed herself back from the desk and, "Well, you won't get better until you go to the 5th floor." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm thinking asthma, allergy. The 5th floor was the psych ward. And I'm like, okay, I'm here under duress to keep my wife, try to make the peace at home. I said, I think I might. And she knew that I was crazy. And that began the journey. And at the time, it was just perfumes and all that kind of stuff. And I would just simply get migraines. And then all of a sudden I got really, really sick from certain foods. If I had peas, it was literally like somebody kicked me in the back. If I had carrots, it felt like somebody shoved a bottle brush up and down my throat. It just burned and hurt like crazy. And if I had oregano, I would hallucinate. I'd see snakes crawling on the wall. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I was able to eat fewer and fewer foods. I started to have all kinds of body reactions. The doctor said that I had body migraines. So if you've ever had a migraine in your head, and such like that, that's what I felt throughout my whole body. My whole body hurt so bad that I was afraid to move because it would hurt. And what ended up happening is the illness got so bad that I would actually lose my ability to tell you what I saw. I could see you, but there'd be no way that I'd be able to tell you that you're a human being. I might be able to tell you that there's some black, maybe from your shirt, but I'd never be able to tell you that was an ocean. And so it got really, really scary. I couldn't watch TV anymore because I couldn't keep up. Like big yellow, funny voice, big yellow. Oh, but it's not Big Bird because it's blue. I couldn't tell you that Big Bird was on the screen and then Big Bird was replaced by the Cookie Monster. I couldn't, my brain wasn't working like that. So it was very scary. I couldn't read. Um, they had my wife at the time move art around the house and different things. And it's like, what is it that, I'm pointing to? And I would go by memory and I was wrong. And I saw this white little bouncy thing in front of me. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure that's my daughter, but I couldn't tell you. So it was a really, really scary illness. There was loads of other symptoms. And I went to a lot of doctors. And when I did, they all knew that I had this really super horrible case of environmental illness or chemical sensitivity. But beyond that, because there was actually three markers that the doctors knew that when these three markers go in your body, that your body is actually beginning to kill itself. And so I was so skinny that you could see the cartilage in my nose. You could see the difference between the cartilage and the bones of my ribs. And I was on oxygen to hopefully be able to retain my vision. And I needed to have more pure air than contaminated air. And when I went for my Social Security hearing, the doctor there, the psychologist for the Social Security showed up. And the judge says, well, you don't need to be here. You must have something really, really important to say. You go first. So the psychologist from the Social Security said, Your Honor, he says, I am very, 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 very concerned about Joe Petroski. He has this absolutely unrealistic expectation that he's going to live.
Ah,
And then he turns and he says, Mr. Petroski, you are going to die. And it's going to be relatively soon. You need to go home and get your affairs in order. And he says, you may end up committing suicide. And you need to come to peace with that. Well, I don't know how anybody comes to peace with that. And luckily, I met this incredible Chinese healer, a 35th generation Shaolin master. And I went to him and his students. And after the second session, I no longer needed the oxygen. And after the third, I was completely healthy. And my teacher had actually, the Shaolin master actually picked me out of a crowd of 150 people. And he says, you can do this. And his 17, or actually, I don't know how many workers he had. He says, we've never heard him say this to anybody. And they had been working with him for 17 years. That's what it was. And so who are you? And like, I'm the dude that's dying. It's like, I'm the guy that needs help. But it's like, well, he's seeing something in you and he hasn't said that to anybody. So when I got better, I studied with him. I studied it with him. He set me up with a mentor in Minnesota, and I was meeting with him at least 3 days a week, and we would train for 3 to 4 hours every day. And then every day that I wasn't being trained, I would practice on any person or any animal that I could. And so I studied solid for 3.5 years, and another 2 on and off. And then during that time, a friend of mine who was Native American took me to a reservation in Wisconsin, and an elder there pulled me over, and he says, "Let's sit." And so literally, I began sitting with him. He was an incredible healer, very, very empathetic. And as I would sit with him, he would feel the energy in the rocks, the trees, the animals, the people, and I could start to feel the energy as well. And that's when, to me, Creator really came onto me because I could see and feel everything. And so since that time, I've been helping people, eliminate the blocks that prevent them from really, really having the joy in their life. Because too many people, you see it around here, especially in Florida, they have, they're coming down here to retire. They have all the money in the world, but something's not right. They know that, yeah, that we have the houses, we have the boats, we have the airplanes, but there's got to be more to life than this. And so, as an intuitive, I can see their subconscious blocks. And as we approach those and as we look at them and rewrite them, what ends up happening is they can finally have the joy, the passion, and the pleasure that they've been looking for a long time. And along that way, it's also something that for over 24 years now, I've been helping people eliminate really, really serious pains and illnesses. And yeah, often in 1 or 2 sessions. So that's me in a nutshell. And I like it. I love it to be able to take people that are, because you know what it's like. People they're doing the mindset work, they're doing the workshops, they're doing the retreats, but something's still missing. And especially women that have gone through emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, I'm able to hold that safe space container and be able to have them have that interaction. And as we look at it, we start to be able to support that process. And then the women can actually feel truly safe with themselves, with their body, with their emotions, their feelings. And they can actually start to connect to their purpose, their passion, their desires, and their pleasure for the first time in a long, long, long time.
So it must have been really kind of amazing, like the first time you went from calling yourself on the healing path to being a healer.
Mm.
What was that like?
So the first time it was a real big thing, I had gotten help people with back things and stuff like that, and but the first time that I helped somebody actually avoid a surgery that was scheduled, there was a client that came in and she had torn her ACL lifting in the gym, and she had heard about me from her friends, and so she came to me. And at the time, I was seeing people at my home in Minnesota, and there was a number of stairs coming up to the house, and it took her, God, almost 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to be able to get up the stairs just to come into the house. And she was at that point, she was beside herself in pain. And so they had told her that she had torn her ACL. She needed to have surgery. I said, well, let's see what we can do. And when I did it, I could see it. When I work with people, sometimes I see it like a dissection, just like, cut it open. I can see that. And other times it feels like energy, and I see the energy moving, something like Space Odyssey 2001. There's all different things. Well, with her, I saw it as though there was a dissection. I could see what was going on. I could see the torn tendon. I could see the inflammation. I could see the infected, the gelatinous in there. And as we worked, it got to the point I says, she's like, I don't feel the pain anymore. And she started to move her legs. I says, okay, cool. Let's see how far you can squat. Let's see how far you can bend. Well, she had brought a Coke can. She was drinking a Coke during the time. And she brought her butt down to the Coke can.
Wow.
And she was able to do that, and so it's like, okay, that's a heck of a squat.
Oh.
But to go in there from not being able to walk up the darn stairs to being able to squat like that. And so she was doing everything. She was kicking her leg, and she was moving her leg, and she was squatting down, and she was doing this, and she was doing lunges, all of these different things. And it freaked me out. It freaked me out because it's like, okay, as I told you, I grew up being told who I was, or who I wasn't. And so I'm sitting there, it's like, I just did something, and there's no way that the Pollock from the east side of St. Paul could have done that,
Wow.
And so I knew that there was something going on. And luckily, I was introduced to a mentor that was a minister and a psychic and a healer. And she was able to help me see and understand exactly what I was going through. And it helped me so much because, yeah, I was this kid that all of a sudden could do this stuff. And it's like, who is this? How is this? And that's really when I started to see the angels, and I prayed like crazy. And I was like, okay, God, you got to let me know if I'm doing this right or not. And it was really interesting because when I began this, what would happen is if I knew that I was really on the path and the healing was going well, I would itch my nose like crazy. And so it's not the most hygienic thing to sit there and itch your nose in front of everybody when I used to see people in the office. And and at the end of the day, after seeing a number of clients, they all thought I was a cokehead, because my nose was so red, and I've never had this stuff. And so I said, God, you got to give me a different sign. And so now I know that if I can feel things in my right hand, my right arm, I know that I'm spot on. But it's been very, very humbling. But it's also my biggest thing is letting people know that it's not just me. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of incredible healers out there. But as you and I talked before we began this recording, people have to be careful because if there's an energy healer out there and they say they got entangled in your energy, they're not being honest. They enmesh themselves, and that's trespassing. That's predatorial. And there's a lot of energy healers out there that are crappy, that surf on other people's emotions, surf on other people's energy, and that's not cool. That's horrible. But there are a lot of really, really awesome healers that can help people. And that's my whole thing, is to let people know they don't need to suffer. They don't need to live with it. And the doctors aren't God. And so they have to be able to trust themselves, feel it, and make the decisions for themselves to be able to go forward.
Joe, I'm just blown away by the degree of incredible healers and energy workers that are going to be at this expo. And you, of course, being one of them. And everybody's a little different. Everybody does things a little differently. But it's blowing my mind about the capabilities of the healers that are going to be at the expo. What can people expect to hear from you when you speak that day on October 26th?
So what I'm going to do is I'll talk about energy the way I see it, and I will actually teach some techniques to the people that will instantaneously increase their physical energy, their emotional energy, their hand-eye coordination, and their connection, their intuition. Also during that time, I'll ask for volunteers that want me to give them a reading, and I'll give a reading right in front of them. And so they can see that it's like, oh my God, you're spot on. You're right there. But on top of that, what I'll do is I'll ask for volunteers, somebody that has a real ache or pain right now. So somebody that's got a neck pain, back pain, ankle pain, whatever, some kind of pain, headache, migraine, whatever, something they're experiencing right then and there. And then what I do is, as I do the presentation and as I teach, I will be looking at the individuals that have these different pains, and I will be facilitating the energy healing. And through the process, I'll say, okay, hey there, Mr. Smith, how's your neck pain doing? And they're like, well, you didn't work on me. I'm like, that's not what I asked. I just asked you how your neck is feeling. And they'll start like, oh my God, I can move it better. It doesn't hurt as bad. I'm like, okay, Mrs. Jones, how's your foot? My foot doesn't hurt so bad. So I want people to understand the efficacy, but the speed, and to know what's possible. And so as they start to open their mind more and more, because you know what it's like, whatever we focus on expands, whatever we focus on grows. And that's one of the things that in a big room like that with a lot of people, the number of people that want to feel healthy, the number of people that want that person, on stage to be able to feel healthy, it just grows and expands. And so it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be really, really helpful. People are going to be able to leave with some really the things that they can use every single day to support themselves. And then they'll have the opportunity to say, it's like, oh, wow, this is pretty damn cool. And at least they're going to have fun. They're going to laugh, and they'll feel physically better when they leave.
So hearing what you're going to talk about when you speak, it's probably going to be pretty similar when people come by your booth, and we expect a lot of people, Joe. We think there's going to be a lot of people. So what can they expect when they stop by your booth and spend, 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, whatever it is, with you?
They can ask me any question that they want, and I'm more than willing to answer any question that they have. And then as they ask me, I'll be able to say, yeah, it's like, okay, I can tell that you have some hip pain. I can tell you that you have some knee pain. And I'll be able to say, it's like, yeah, I can help you. And when we do that, I will probably have worked out some discounted packages with people if they want to have just, single sessions for themselves, their family, or if they want to coach with me. And so I'll offer that. But when they come, I'll give them, a minute or two of a reading so they know, like, oh, how did you know that? And because to me, that's the most fun and incredible thing, because I don't read you unless you give me permission. I think that reading is really, really personal. And I only set out the intention to see what I need to see, hear what I need to hear, and feel what I need to feel, and then only say the words that you need to hear. And so when I do that, I feel that it's my highest self, your highest self, and creator that makes this beautiful, perfect triangle. and that's how I can see you. That's how I can read you. And it'll be cool. It'll be a ton of fun.
I learned a lot about you today, Joe, and I knew that you had a lot of talent. I knew you were doing a lot of good, but I didn't quite know the details. So, congratulations on being Joe these days. And, I find that people that have the most difficult upbringings have a tendency to kind of, if their heads are in the right place, make the most progress in life. And you're definitely one of those people. So, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I look forward to seeing you and Lauren and everybody else, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. Goodbye,
Yeah.
everybody. We'll see you again soon.